Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. This podcast is brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting company for project, program, and portfolio management. I'm going to take a slightly different aspect to my podcast today. It kind of goes back to my original days of the podcast that I used to do, where I would have a hodgepodge of things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about morality in machines. I'm going to talk about massive project for the human body. Then I'm going to talk about digital transformation, and then I'm going to bring you up to date on some of the PMI events. So let's get started. The first item I'm going to talk to you about is titled Building a Moral Machine. Who decides the ethics of self-driving cars? While this, and it's brought to you by Singularity Hub, while this was talked about on self-driving cars, I see it also adapting into the way machines may make decisions for us in the future on projects. So let's talk about this a little bit. There's an effect of moral dilemma, and it's called the trolley problem. Just quickly, if you've not heard about the trolley problem, take it that you're in San Francisco and you see a trolley that's out of control, and you're near a switch so that it can go from one track to another. And it's coming down, and there's 5 workers on one track, and they have no concept that this trolley's out of control because they're making all kinds of noises and they haven't seen it. And no matter how much you yell and scream, you can't get to know them, get their attention. However, if you switch the track, there's only one person on that track, but that person is also oblivious to the trolley that's out of control and coming. So the moral dilemma is, what do? Do you possibly kill 5 people, or do you just kill one person? So there was a crowdsourcing study done about the moral dilemma. Now, you can't just present this moral dilemma and say, what will you do? You have to, when you're crowdsourcing, you have to present questions and they need to be yes or no questions. So these academics got together and they developed 9 questions about self-driving cars. And they crowdsourced from all over the world. And it was kind of interesting that not all morality is created equal. And as we know, Eastern countries tend to think differently than they do here in the United States or Western countries. So there's regional differences. So you might think in broad strokes that everybody thinks the same, but we don't. So for example, more of the respondents chose to save a criminal than a cat, but fractionally preferred to save a dog over a criminal. So that's kind of, it even brings in pets. As a global average, being old is judged more harshly than being homeless, yet homeless people were spared less often than the obese. These rules didn't apply universally. Respondents from France, the United States, and the United Kingdom had the greatest preference for youth, while respondents from China and Taiwan were more willing to spare the elderly. Respondents from Japan displayed a strong preference for saving pedestrians over passengers in the car, while respondents from China tended to choose to save passengers over pedestrians. So think about this. Let's say you're in a self-driving car and you're there, and in a split second, the car has to make a decision as to, do I hit another car and possibly injure the people or even kill the people in the self-driving car, or do I hit a pedestrian? So when we have to make decisions when we're driving on this, do I hit the pedestrian or do I hit a car? That's done in a split second. We have to make that decision quickly. And it may be that we might try to avoid both, and just injure ourselves. But when we're in the self-driving car, do we want that self-driving car to have the same morality as we do? Is there a way for that self-driving car to understand what our morality is? The answer is probably no. It's probably already put into the coding within the car as to what the morality will be. But which morality do you choose? When you get into the car, do you select a button that says Eastern influenced morality or Western influenced morality? Or do I choose youth over elderly? Or do I choose a dog over a person? Do I take criminals over a cat, for example? Do I take the obese over the elderly? All of those have to come into account when you're doing all of this. So how do you make those decisions? Again, this was crowdsourcing, and there's no right answers. It's hard to resolve what that morality will be. So what will we do when we come to project management? Because there's ethical dilemmas in project management as well. Do we, if you're running through a project and you are running out of money or time, you can delete some of the scope. But let's say you're on a health project where you're developing software for a health company or for a piece of equipment. Do you take out some of the scope from that software? Does that eventually hurt patients? Do you want to take that risk? So those are all the morality things that we have to do, because in the future, I do see machines making some of the decisions for us, especially on risk, on earned value and things of that sort. So morality has to be put in there. Now, maybe we'll have an overriding part of it, but we may not understand all of the aspects of why the machine made such a decision. It might be looking at the overall picture and taking in terabytes of data that you can't do. And if you override it, then you make even a worse decision about scope or about risk. So all of this has to come into account when you're doing morality on projects. We do it now, but we most likely use our own morality or the ethics that is pushed to us by the corporation that we work at. So think about morality and ethics the next time you're on your project, especially if you're on a program or a portfolio where you're probably taking in a lot of data. Think about programs that are multi-billion dollars. They have terabytes of data. So eventually we're going to have machines that help us. And today we have rudimentary software that helps us, but we'll need to have more in the future, because projects are getting more complex, and they're getting riskier, and they're getting to be in a way that we have to make decisions on what the next step is. It's almost like agility, agile. You decide along the way what you're going to do. Okay, so let's jump to a new project that is coming about. Again, this is brought to you by Singularity Hub. It's called the Massive Project That's Building a Google Earth for Human Health. So there's been a project in research for about 70 years, and it has to do with the human heart. And they took a bunch of patients and they followed them for years. And through that, we have found out a lot about the human heart and what causes it to get sick and what causes different things. We found out that obesity hurts the heart. Lack of exercise hurts the heart, and we can go on and on. But there's a new one where Google is collaborating. It's not really Google, it's Alphabet, is collaborating with Duke and Stanford and its universities, and it's a project called the Project Baseline. And its goal, it's incredible, this goal, is to stop cancer and other killers before they even occur. Can you imagine if we understood, based on what your body is like, that you can stop cancer before it even starts in you? That would be amazing. But what they're trying to do is they're taking as many people as they can from around the world, and they're mapping their genomes, but they're also mapping the bacteria in the gut of the people. And even taking it a step further, they're helping these people understand, so they're giving that information to the individual person. So as of now, they've got they've got an amazing terabytes of data. I think it's 600 and 702 terabytes worth of data. So can you imagine that much data? Again, you have to have machines that are slicing and dicing the data and trying to come to conclusions. Yes, there's humans involved, but the humans are looking at what the machines are telling them to do. So they want to have enough participant volunteers so that they can come up with trends, because the human body is different from person to person, but yet it's the same. However, if I exercise 3 times a week and another person exercises 3 times a week, depending on how we exercise may depend on whether we get cancer or not. So we need to understand what all of that is relevant to our bodies, and understand that based on this dynamic and that dynamic and another dynamic, how those dynamics work together to help you or hinder you in your fight against cancer, in your fight to never have cancer, and other things that are going on right now. So up to right now, they have 2,000 people that have signed up for the study. They want to have a whole lot more. Project Baseline is just one of many studies that is enabling the big data age. All of, the NIH, the National Institute of Health in the United States, seeks to gather data from over 1 million people in the U.S. In the UK, they're doing the 100,000 Genomes Project, recently hit the halfway landmark, and there's a similar project in China. So can you imagine being able to take all this data from all of these studies and trying to correlate different findings? It's just amazing to me that this is going on. So in the future, maybe our kids won't have to, and our grandkids won't even have to deal with cancer. It'll be cured before it even starts. They'll understand what causes different things in your body to happen. So things in the healthcare industry are just moving along rapidly. So I think we'll see a lot of different things happening. If you're working on one of these projects, I sure would love to have you on my podcast so you can tell us more about the information. My email is wanda@pmpowered.com. So let's go to the next one, and it's a little different. This one is called, and it's an article by Clarizen, and it's Enterprise Survival Guide to Digital Transformation, Critical Insights that Make the Journey Rewarding, Not Perilous. So many companies, if not all companies, should be going to digital transformation. They're doing all kinds of transformations in their company to understand that they're at the digital forefront of their industry. However, a lot of them, because these are complex projects that are kind of nebulous because you don't really understand what the end goal is, are failing. So why are they failing? Well, according to this article, it's because of poor awareness, limited agility, and inadequate work management. So let's look at this. What is going on with those that are actually doing well? So first, there's 5 critical areas that you have to do to overcome the digital transformation in your company. One is awareness. That is self-awareness of what you really do in your company. You have to understand your core competencies for your company. You have to understand where you're at and where you're going. So that's the gap analysis. You have to understand where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And you have to understand how digitization will help you. You have to understand how this transformation will help your core competencies. If you don't, then you're not going to be able to get to where you need to be. Agility. You have to be able to move quickly because the digital transformation is not a systemic rigidness. And let me back up here. Digital transformation is not rigid. It is agile because it's changing all the time. So you have to be able to adapt. So enterprises must grasp and ideally embrace, since it cannot be very insightful and energizing, is that moving forwards towards digital transformation is about making constant adjustments that align their robust strategy that guides activities and decision making. So you have to be able to adjust as the digital transformation changes. And it's changing all the time. It used to be Moore's Law said IT would change every 18 months. That has gone out the window. Digital transformation is happening around us all the time. So your enterprise has to be able to change as well. Culture. This has to do with people. People inherently don't like to change. So you have to be able to lead your company and the people in it to the change. And this is about being transparent, helping the people understand where you're going with the digital transformation, and that it's not a linear approach, but it's going to be a zigzag approach. And they need to be able to adapt to this zigzag. Because while you'll take 2 steps forward, you may take a half a step backwards because the digital transformation didn't work. And there's going to be culture shock. People are not going to be able to adapt. And you have to be able to bring these people along to adapt. There's going to be fear. There's going to be people that want to adapt quickly and will do it too quickly. So you need to understand how to do that. So you need to drive change at 3 levels. That is evidence, leadership, and support. With respect to evidence, employees need to understand why their enterprise is moving towards digital transformation. Again, keep people informed. People want to know. If you keep it vague and kind of nebulous and hidden behind a veil, people aren't going to understand, and it's going to create fear, and people are going to reject it. With respect to leadership, enterprise must ensure that the full executive team is on board and buys into the need for digital transformation. This is true with any huge project. Executives have got to buy in. Even if you have one that doesn't, that person can bring it all down. So make sure all of the executives on board and are walking the talk. With respect to support, enterprises need to appreciate that all kinds of major change, including the positive kind, is inherently stressful and to some scary as well. Providing support in the form of both informal coaching and formal training events must be part of the overall change management. This is true with any change management. You've got to provide informal and formal training. Informal training can be in the form of a newsletter, but you also have to have formal training. And it doesn't mean that it has to be face-to-face. It can be online training. It can be quick 1-minute podcasts. It can be very, very well done and be done in an easy environment. So you need to have, so let's go to number 4. You need to have enterprise collaborative work management. This doesn't mean your traditional workflow management. It doesn't mean places to store documents. There is everyday collaboration that must take place for programs and projects to succeed. And then there is the kind of collaboration that drives digital transformation, which is on a different level. This is what Clarissen is saying. So they go on to say, simply put, if there are any weaknesses in their collaboration tools, then enterprises will find their journey to digital transformation fraught with confusion, conflict, and chaos. And this is true of any large project or program that we're on. And digital transformation is a program. So to avoid this, they recommend that your enterprise collaborative work management tools have 3 things. Adaptability is one. So the enterprise collaborative work management will establish a clear line of sight into all business indicators as transformation occurs and takes root, from top-level executives down through individual project team members and other internal and external stakeholders. And my thought on this is everybody in the company is a stakeholder. And that includes everybody outside the company that your company touches. So this may be customers. It may be the community that the company is in. So understand who the internal and external stakeholders and have adaptability in your enterprise collaborative work management. Collaboration. Clarissen says, as a solution is deployed, it will streamline and organize communication through tools like automated workflow alerts, which let team members spend more time doing their jobs and less time on administrative and clerical tasks. Again, if we had smart tools within the project management environment, a lot of this digital transformation could be done by machines doing the mundane aspects. Efficiency is the 3rd item. An enterprise-grade collaborative work management solution will enable 360-degree real-time visibility into the change process, which allows enterprises to leverage valuable insights and make key adjustments. Okay, and last but not least, the 5th thing that you need for digital transformation is evolution. Digital transformation is not one of those things where the project ends when you have a goal. It's continuously going. So this program, while one project ends, a new project will come along to even change what you had just done. And this is evolution of digital transformation. And this is something that's going to stay with us, I think, for the rest of eternity while humans are doing work. And so digital transformation will continue on throughout the life of the company and throughout the life of people. So even us at home are seeing digital transformation. Think about the appliances that are coming into your house. They're constantly doing different things. So keep an open mind, stay flexible, or agile, as they like to say in the project world, and understand that digitization is here to stay. So let's switch over a little bit and talk about the Project Management Institute. So PMI has a podcast and it's called Projectified, and they do about 2 a month. And there's been a couple several that I would like to entertain that you should listen to. I don't advocate listening to all of them because some of them have good stuff and some of them have none. But here's one, since we just talked about bleeding edge projects and digital transformation. There's one called A Radical Mind Shift, Managing Bleeding Edge Projects. This is kind of a good one, and it was done on 31 October, and it's with the guest is Mark Lehman. Another one that I would highly recommend, because we've seen a lot of crisis, natural disasters around the world and here in the United States. And this one is called Crisis Mode, Emergency Management and Response. It was done on 17 October, and the guests are Southeast Louisiana Veterans Healthcare System. And the final one that I would like to, two more. There's one by the guest was Lori Tanner, and this was done on 3 October. And it's called The Greater Good, Lessons from Governments and NGOs. So the reason I advocate that is because the last 2 podcasts, I did talk about governments and NGO projects. So you might want to listen to that and see if they have a different perspective, and then compare it to what I had to say. And then going again back to the digital transformation and that huge project on the body, there's one by Everaldo de Souza Alves Jr., and it's called The Need for Speed, Delivering Rapid Response Projects. Some of the projects on Digital Divide will be rapid responses, and I think some of the parts of mapping the human body will also have rapid response projects. So you need to listen to this, and it was done on 19 September 2018. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit, but continue with the Project Management Institute. The last item I want to tell you about are the events that are happening in the Project Management Institute. The PMO Symposium for 2018, which is happening in Washington, D.C., will be on 11 November through 14 November. When I used to attend the PMO Symposium, they used to provide a lot of good things. This is for more advanced project managers and people that run PMOs, so I highly recommend it. Then early next year, the PMI EMEA Congress is from 13 May to 15 May, and it's in Dublin, Ireland. If you've never been to Ireland and you can make it a chance, I highly recommend that you go. It's a beautiful area. Seminars World is where you can learn about project management in different areas, and they have everything for beginners to the most advanced project managers. And the Seminars World, the last 2 that are happening for this year is in Chicago from 12 to 15 November, and in Las Vegas, and I just came back from Las Vegas, so if you've never been, that's another great place to go. It's from 10 to 13 December, very close to Christmas. I'm Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management, and this podcast has been brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting company on project, program, and portfolio projects. Please follow me on LinkedIn. Sorry about that. YouTube, and all of the other social medias that you might find available, such as Facebook. I have enjoyed bringing this podcast to you, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Stay tuned, and I look forward to you having a blessed week.